Very good afternoon. A very warm welcome to this program on pre-packaged insolvency process, which is still in the shape of a public document being floated by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs for public comments. As a former president of ICSI and as also being a professional, I have always felt that sometimes we are not very keen and we don't pay much emphasis and attention when any document comes for public comments. Sometimes we just feel that it's okay, others are looking at it, others are seeing at it, and I'm sure they will do a good job. They know where the shoe bites, etc., etc. And then we land up in a soup when the document comes. Our heart is not there because we have never put our mind in that document. And that is the time when we grapple as to how our word should be sent across to the ministries to be heard. But then it's too late by that time. And only after much hullabaloo is that we are able to reach to the table of the ministry or to the regulators. Why is it that we don't look at the document when it is rightly put so for our observations? So I felt that this is an opportune time from the from the Merchants Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is a it's an esteemed chamber in the eastern part of the country, and it's almost about 100. It will get 100-year old. So we thought when I was speaking to the president of the chamber, Mr. Akash Shah, he's also a very big industrialist here. He said that Mamta pre-packaged is something which is going to change the landscape of IBC, and let's do this program. And no better person than from IBBI and Mr. Behram Vakil, because he's been in the committee, the subcommittee. No other better person than them to really look at it and dissect it for us, and even let it be known to the people at large. And that's how we are here in front of you. So thank you very much to the chamber's president, Mr. Akash, for allowing us to do this program. And I represent the chamber in the form of a legal affairs council chairperson. Today, I am not only donning the hat of the chamber, but I must say that we are joined with the esteemed IWIRC organization, which is an acronym that stands for International Women's Insolvency and Restructuring Confederation. Let me also tell you that it's a new name for quite a lot of us. It's an organization which is spread in 22 countries now, and we have 1,600 plus members worldwide. It's an organization which promotes the status of women in insolvency and related profession. And it's there for almost 25 years now. Manisha Dheer is the chair, and I'm the co-chair for the India network. I welcome all the IWIRC participants to the show. We also have the NCLT Kolkata Bar Association joining in, and Shri S.M. Gupta is the president of this bar association, and I'm the vice president of the bar association. We have IBC Laws. Mr. Omkar Sir is there from IBC Laws, and we know how IBC Laws, in a short duration of about 2 years plus, with an active participation from all of us, has been really touching the skylines of IBC by giving prompt delivery of what's happening in this space. We are also joined in by the MSME Development Forum, which is under the aegis of the Ministry of MSME. And Sri Rajneesh Goenka and Sri Pramod Goenka are the ones who will be joining in from that organization. So they're also very keenly observing the space because operational creditors is really fighting them quite hard. So they were very keen to know what's happening in this arena. I am also joined in by my co-chair from the chamber, Mr. Jivan Chakraborty. He's Dr. Jivan Chakraborty, and he's a consultant with Sham Steel. So thank you, Jivan sir. And just one, I will fail in my duty if I don't take two more names. That is, one is Mr. Munmun Banerjee, who's joined from the chamber, and she's handling entirely the whole thing, and Mr. S. Roy and S. Day. So with this, I welcome you all. And may I just request the seniority demands that Mr. S.M. Gupta may kindly speak for a minute or so to welcome our guests, and then we straight away go to Mr. Behram Vakil for his keynote speech.
Thank you, Mamta. I will not take much of your time. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir, you're
Yeah.
on.
No, not much of. I'll take not take much of your time. All the dignitaries you have already taken their names, so I will not repeat. All the top dignitaries of the profession and of IBBI and of the chamber and all others connected with and concerned with this new proposed pre-packaged IBC and law under IBC process under IBC law uh, is before us. You are going to make a very good presentation, I am told, as usual. And Mr. Vakil is definitely there. I can only say one thing, that IBBI has been very forthcoming ever since the law came. Every On every event, on every occasion, they have come very fast to help the stakeholders, either by amendments into the parliament or by notifications or by clarifications. But no one can say that till today that IBBR is not listening. They are listening to everyone, whether it's RP, whether it's IRP, or whether it's liquidator, and they come very fast to help the stakeholders. That is one great thing about this institution and about this law. That's why it has been evolving so fast and so nicely, and it has functioned so nicely and so successfully. So, congratulations to IBBI and all the stakeholders. Thank you, Mamta, for giving me this opportunity. I welcome everyone who is present here for this and wish you this success, great success in your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gupta ji. I think Gupta ji was welcoming Mr. Sudhakar Shukla ji from IBBI. Thank you, Sudhakar ji, for being there. Please accept the connotation in the form of a flower bouquet. And thank you for all the warmth of your smiles and the work that you do. Kudos to you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Behram sir, thank you so much. With a clarion call, you're there with us. It means a lot. It means a lot. Thank you for being so accessible, at least in the arena of knowledge and wisdom.
No, no.
It means a
Thank
lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's very kind. Thank you to all of you for this privilege. Really appreciate it. And to all of you who have joined in, I'm sure it will be a very interesting session. Certainly a very a topical issue that we are right in the midst of. And as Mamta said, it's good to give your feedback in a timely manner so that especially when the government and the regulator we have is so receptive, so always good to give your timely feedback. So I will just give a extremely brief uh, summary of
Yes, sir.
what is envisaged,
Yes, sir.
because I know that all of you are experts, and I'm sure I've read it very thoroughly.
Yes, sir. Just
So
allow me a minute's time to welcome Rajneesh ji also. Just
please,
I'll take half a minute of yours.
please, please.
Thank you so much, Rajneesh ji. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you so much for joining in. And I can see with your clothes that it's very pretty cold in Delhi. Yes, yet. Rajneesh ji is from the Ministry of MSME. I know words will fall short to describe him and describe his veracity, but thank you so much, Rajneesh ji. It means a lot to us that you've joined in. He is also representing as the president of the MSME Development Forum.
रजनीश जी को रिक्वेस्ट करो, ममता कलकत्ता फिर कब आएंगे, बहुत दिन हो
हाँ
गया.
हाँ हाँ जरूर.
He's the top boss of MSME. So we want him back to Calcutta. आइए फिर एक बार.
इनवाइट किया, मैं जल्दी आ जाता.
जल्दी आइए, जल्दी आइए.
So let's thank you, Rajneesh ji, Sudhakar ji, and let us hear Behram sir, and then we'll come back to all your good selves. Yes, Behram sir, thank you for that lending of moments.
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, that it all started with MSME. If you
Yes.
remember, in the finance minister's speech, she had said that we should start the pre-pack process with MSME. And that was the whole idea, because that was way back, I think, 6, 8 months ago, when we were in that very unfortunate situation. And given the very vital role that they play, both in terms of our economy, GDP, and of course, most importantly, in terms of employment. We know that the vast majority of that comes from the MSME sector. So I'm quite sure that whatever solution is found will cover all parties, including MSMEs, with the blessing of the MSME sector and the ministry. So, going back to it, the idea was that you have the flexibility and speed, because we have all seen now that the faster the process works, the more efficient it is, the better the recovery. And again, as I keep saying, that even more so in the MSME sector. So that was the idea of bringing this simpler structure with 90 plus 30 days, and with the formality of going through NCLT, so that you get the blessing and the stamp of approval, which, as we know, the ground reality, it is very, very important, both for the banks and in many ways a fresh beginning for the promoter or whoever the successful bidder is. So that is the goal post. And frankly, right from day one, from the BLRC days, when we had all those discussions with UK, which was the main law that we found appropriate for India, and then of course with the changes that were required in the Indian context, we found this pre-pack process was a very attractive one. It took them more than 10 years to come to it, so we knew that it will be phase 2, but now, God willing, within 4 years we don't have luxury of time, so we are moving much faster, and I think it's a very appropriate time, and we do hope that it comes through in the next budget parliamentary session. So with that, what I'll say is that you have the biggest change is that you have debtor in possession. The promoters are not dispossessed, and but the creditors are still in control. And the reason I say creditors are in control, because a lot of the key decisions are still taken by the creditors. All the section 28 decisions are still taken by the creditors, and the RP, of course, is there in a more supervisory role. This time he's not taking over and he's not in charge, because the debtor stays in possession. So his role is slightly diluted, though it is still an important supervisory role. So debtor in possession with creditors in control. That's the way I would describe it. And the first stage, if I break it up into phase 1 and phase 2. So the phase 1 is the informal part before you approach NCLT, and that is where you come up with a plan between the promoter, most likely, especially in the MSME context, and with the banks. And if that is a very solid plan, and is a robust plan and an equitable plan, where all stakeholders get as much as they would in a CIRP process, then the rest of the whole scheme will work much faster. If that is one sided in any way, then I fear the process will take much more time and get very complicated, because after that, then you bring the you have to get the votes, as I said, of the creditors committee, and also you have to, in this case, get shareholders approval. So you that is one additional layer, because if it is the promoters that are staying, then it's important that the shareholders feel comfortable and therefore uh, give approval to the process. Now, one crucial distinction in the current formula, and as you said, it is still being debated, but for MSMEs, the feeling is that 29A should not apply, because otherwise you will have a spate of liquidation. There are not too many third parties who may be interested, and certainly the goal is not liquidation. For others, 29A still applies. With that, the next step after that, once you get these approvals, shareholder and creditors committee, then unless you pay 100% to operational creditors, you have to go for what we are calling the Swiss challenge. So you do have to, in an informal, more confidential manner, take it out to other third parties. And if they offer something substantially better, say whether the threshold is 10%, 20% higher, then the promoter will have a right to match that bid, and that's the advantage that he gets for stepping forward and initiating the process. And otherwise it goes to, because of course maximization of value still remains an inherent goal. Then of course you, the process we are all familiar with, you apply to the NCLT. This whole process which I described, if you have to go through the Swiss challenge, you go through the claims, you go through avoidance, limited more to fraudulent, not the large scale avoidance transactions, because you don't have the time. So all this you are supposed to do, and all supervised by the RP. All this you're supposed to do in 90 days, and thereafter in 30 days, NCLT should pass the scheme. So, so that is the goal, where you can see that there is a, you know, you do a lot of the work upfront in an informal way, and then you take it to the NCLT when it is 80% done, if you will. Then you get the stamp of approval, so that everything is clean. Banks also have absolutely nothing to worry about, and you come out revitalized on the other side. So that, I think, that's the overview that I wanted to give, and you know, obviously look forward to hearing everybody else and then the questions that are there. Many thanks.
Thank you, Behram sir. Only one, I think you gave you gave an overview. In fact, in an overview, you gave us the entire. बोलते ना सागर गागर में सागर या सागर में गागर was like, it was like that. But just that 29A is pinching all of us. So is 29A in complete section applicable to prepackaged? The complete
Uh,
section is applicable.
Except for MSME. So if you're not MSME, then it's applicable.
So for MSME, 240A becomes applicable, and hence some of the provisions becomes inapplicable.
Yes, yes.
Right.
But
And
also, it was a policy decision that for MSMEs not to avoid, as I said, this
right.
massive amount of liquidations, because there may not be appetite from other people. The main person who will be able to revive the company is the promoter, and that is why the decision was to do away with 29A in those cases.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We'll definitely come back to you. And let us now hear Sudhakar, sir. Sudhakar ji, you are the whole time member of IBBI. IBBI is one organization where we have deep respect for. It's not because of its proactiveness alone, but also because of its passion that it showcases for work and for all its constituents. IBBI is one organization which we all have seen. It works without any prejudice, without any bias. And its fastness and proactiveness is something which has become a URP or SRP or URL of IBBI. So we are very grateful that you have joined in from IBBI. In spite of not being too well, you still have taken out your time. So we are grateful to you for that, sir. I give it to you now.
Thank you very much. And at the onset, let me thank this Merchant Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Calcutta Bar for organizing this program, which is more opportune in the sense that uh, pre-pack discussion paper is already on the website, and last date for submission of comments is 22nd, which is near. So one has to see it with urgency. And I also thank Mr. Behram Saab for such an excellent opening remark, because once you engrossed into the technical paper, it is very difficult, it becomes very difficult to summarize or prepare the gist out of it. So he wonderfully, he has been member of the committee headed by Mr. Sahu, and his contributions are very much reflected in the pre-packed paper, which is on the website for comments. So I thank him also. for his contributions during the meeting and today's presentation. Now, having said that, job for me has become a bit difficult also, because if a member of the committee itself says something is so lucidly, it becomes a bit demanding how IBBI should respond to this, basically. But what I propose that I would be giving some setting why socio-economic, mainly economic spectrum, why it necessitates out-of-box thinking, and how these out-of-box thinking is being shifted from drawing board to implementation stage. So that would be helpful, I think, in moving and understanding why PPAC is so necessary. As a having economist background, basically, I recall today that what Milton Friedman said, noted economist, that crisis actually tests the character and preparedness of any nation. So crisis came here in the form of pandemic, and this is the opportune time to convert the alternates into real policy framework. So we are lucky that alternatives we were working before the commencement of COVID. So today we are well prepared that alternatives can be rolled out in swift manner. If you see the pandemic induced difficulties, there is a demand and supply disruptions in the real sector. Real sector turmoil can translate into real trouble in the financial sector as well. And that will bring us back to the scenario of twin balance sheet problem from where we began 4-5 years back. So but the process is basically reverse. Like if we talk about contagion 2008, it started with the financial sector crisis and moved into real sector. And now it is just reversed, that real sector crisis is now staring us in the financial sector, and more problem we see as we move forward. There are researches, and I will say share some researches which say that insolvencies, both at the company level and individual level, would rise. And since there is a dearth of RA at this time of crisis, perhaps we have to see that CRP will not be in position to give the solution, because if RA is not there, resolution applicant is not coming forth, then who would be the taker of these distress assets? So that is why, and this actually, these 4-5 points which I mentioned, spells out the need for alternatives such as pre-pack. We discussed eloquently by Mr. Behram Saab. Then we are also having a special package for MSME, cross-border and fresh start process. So all have actually crossed the drawing board stage and are at different stages of implementation, and it is government's call when and which sequence they should follow. I just want to deviate from what Mr. Behram said about MSME and this pre-pack. Actually, the thinking is emerging that if your special package for MSME under 240A, which also is coming with a more or less with same focus, then why to have another alternative of pre-pack for MSME? This is a point to ponder among the discussants and give some way out on this. Basically, we think that now by and large thinking is that pre-pack would be working from big corporates, and basically MSME issues would be handled through a special package which MSME for MSME, which is to be announced in a phased manner. So this is one point.
Huh?
Shall I? Hello? Am I audible?
Absolutely, sir, you're audible. You're
Yeah,
audible.
because I thought there was some disruption.
No,
Somebody
no,
called your name. So
no.
this is one issue, MSME being covered through special package and free packs being extended to only large corporates. So this is one issue. And also the second issue related was that if pre-pack is available, then only one of it can be utilized at a time. It is not that you waste time with the pre-package and then you say it is not workable, we should go to CIRP. Or we can move the application both ways, that CRP and pre-pack should run in parallel. So that possibility in the discussion paper is ruled out. Regarding the economic setting, which I mentioned in the beginning, there are report, IMF report of October 2020, which says that global GDP has contracted by 4.4% in 2020. And RBI's recent December report has projected that India's GDP will contract by 7.5 in 2021. But if we go by what data we have, V-shaped recovery is already on the card. And also the FPI and stock markets are buoyant at this stage. So we hope that many of the problems may be addressed by the economy itself instead for asking for intervention from the side of the government. In terms of buoyancy in corporate sector, actually, you see RBI's report again of December 2020. They have pointed that though there is a green shoot, but private investment is still slack and a matter of concern. So private investment is not taking off. So that could have repercussions for growth and also insolvencies. And if we also see the data which they have released, the moratorium benefits, who has availed so far. So they are saying 31% of corporates and 78% of MSME customers have availed moratorium benefits extended by the RBI. So this is a big number, and this also points towards the stress which is under carpet right now. And if you see the sectoral issues also have been raised by some scholars. Actually, they are saying it like at macro level, everything could be like even out. But you see the sectors which are in trouble, basically auto industries, FMCG, airlines, IT, textiles, real estates, and cement and steel, etc. Then the picture would be different, and again the appeal from various forums, including the G30 report, which again came recently, says that you have to have a sectoral approach to deal with the crisis and the insolvencies. CRISIL rating, if you see, again December 2020 report says that we have ebbed the credit in terms of credit ratio in the recent past. So it's 0.54 is the credit ratio, which is really alarming, and it is all-time low. In terms of insolvency, if you say, then the G30 report, in which Raghuram Rajan is the member, they said 2008, actually, if we say that is the parameter, that time global contagion led to 5 to 40% of increase in corporate insolvencies. and that time they say it is uh, ratio of corporate debt to GDP was only 73%. Now the corporate debt to GDP ratio has increased to 91%. So if this huge increase has happened, and this gives them a cause of fear actually to say that these insolvencies would be much higher than what happened in 2008. IMF report says SMEs are in big trouble. Insolvencies may triple from 4 to 12. And this is the July 2020 report. We are waiting for the fresh one. And similarly, Alliance Research says globally insolvencies will increase by 35%. In IBBI also we tried to do some analysis. Can you mute your mic, please?
People who are joining in, may I request you to please mute their mics? Please shift them to the panel.
ये रिकवरी पिटिशन मिल गया ना तो इसमें मेंशन कर दो रिकवरी डिस्पोज्ड ऑफ रिकवरी पिटिशन फाइल
ओके ठीक है मैं लिख दूंगा
May I request all the people who are joining in to please put yourself on mute. Please put yourself on mute. Sudhakaji, just give us a minute. We are going to shift them out the panelist list.
A very cool thing, but you can mute them, I think, simply.
Yeah, I know.
जो भी देखे चाहे मैंने कहाँ से लिया उस समय पता नहीं चलेगा.
So we actually have to close the registration because we are close to 300 now.
इस सर को चेंज करके दूं?
Just 1 minute.
Yes,
May I request all of you to please put yourself on mute. Okay, I can do it in fact. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. But this is on webinars. This problem always comes. So otherwise, we are mentally prepared for distractions.
No, not at all, sir. Please continue.
So in IBBI, we have done the study of unlisted companies, and if we see the results, actually results are that 15% companies had interest coverage ratio of less than 1, and 68% had quick ratio of less than 1. So quick ratio being less than 1 gives you some clue that inventories are rising in the unlisted companies which we have studied. So this is a pointer that these insolvencies are undercover, and maybe they rise as soon as the moratorium and other instruments which have been enforced for suspension of 7, 9, and 10. Then things may emerge in actual basis. And again, DFS has pointed out that right now, a standstill clause in inter-creditor agreement under RBI's prudential framework prohibits banks from initiation of CRP. However, insolvencies will rise once the special dispensation is withdrawn. So these are all pointing that there is a crisis, and perhaps we have to address that crisis in a more prudent manner. And international, if you see thinking points basically which are emerging, these studies are again from this is World Bank and IMF. They have said in 3 phases. Phase 1 of freeze, which India and other countries adopted to freezing during COVID time, your loan becomes non-est, and there will be no case under 7, 9, 10 we did in India. Then there is a transition phase for special out-of-court workouts. Actually, if we, in terms of this presentation of World Bank, we are in the 2nd phase, and we are talking about pre-pack and other things, because this is one thing which is near to out-of-court workouts to flatten the curve. So this is, and phase 3 is fighting that overhang. and through a more concentrated interventions. Similarly, World Economic Forum has also said the same thing. They say there is a sovereign phase. First phase was sovereign phase, where all the action was coming from the sovereign authority. And then second is the debt, where banks and financial institutions came and extended the help of liquidity to the corporate world. And now they say it ultimately has to transform into equity phase, where private investors have to infuse more liquidity in the system to avoid insolvencies. So this is how the literature right now points out that we have to be carefully designing our interventions in going forward. Even G30 report, if you read, it says that pre-pack is one of the options which can be utilized by all the countries. And they have quoted also that many jurisdictions, including Japan, has rolled out a liberalized regime of PPACs, particularly in the context of SMEs. So many developments have happened in where the PPAC design was available. Suitably, they were modified, and where they are not available, they are being designed to be rolled out. Now, after briefly telling you about the international aspect and growing insolvencies, in India actually, and this again is quoted in the report itself, that what options we have. And options in the context of India are that we have two court supervised options, which are CRP under the code and a scheme of compromise and arrangement, SOA, under section 230 of the Companies Act. So these are two already available for companies which can resolve their debt issues through. And the two are out of court options. Of one is RBI's prudential framework for resolution of stress assets, and there is also informal understanding was always available between debtor and creditor for mediation or without mediation to move forward. So that is how options for out of court maneuvers, which we visualize in the Indian context, are available. If you see the recommendation of BLRC, actually they say that our economy is not mature enough, insolvency regime is not mature enough to move towards pre-pack. But whenever we are moving towards pre-pack, it cannot be an out-of-court regime. So that is one part very clear from BLRC. And if you see the design, actually, which Vakil Saab was enumerating, actually it is a scheme where blessings of court is necessary. So it is not that somebody will decide it outside the court and get away. So that is very much clear with this document. Many aspects have been touched by Vakil Saab, but I will just I will try to see which aspects had more critical thinking and some controversies as well during the discussion, and the report captures those controversies as well. So those basically one thing was, and this was debated thoroughly, that there should be no deviation from the basic structure of the code. So when we are moving with this premises that there is no deviation from basic structure of the code, then many features of the code have to be adopted as it is, which are available in the code. So this is, it also says that rights of any stakeholder should not be impaired. So this is the second issue which was debated in the committee. The third important issue has been whether we want to project the pre-pack dispensation as a confidential matter or transparent matter. So transparency and confidentiality was actually debated, and it was thought that where the systems are being evolved around the garb of confidentiality, there we have to protect the rights of OC in full. And where there is a transparency being envisaged, Swiss challenge is being envisaged, there actually we can go by a normal waterfall provisions which are provided in the code. So next was 29A. Actually, again, if you read the passage on 29A, there was debate, and there was it was not a unanimous recommendation, but recommendation eventually was that 29A should be adopted as it is, because we don't want any ineligible person to come and take away the benefits out of this dispensation. So this 29A issue is was hotly contested, and is very well recorded in the report itself, that what goes into the consideration. Then we have, if you see, 90 days time, Swiss challenge, and also the COC's mandate, and the leading to liquidation. Actually, otherwise it's a simple majority vote of the COC members to approve the plan. But if they decide to go for liquidation, then it is provided that 75% of voting share is required to recommend for liquidation to AA. So this is, I thought I will add something what has been said. In the beginning, I think Mamta ji, I was asking what is happening in other spheres as well, apart from pre-pack. Cross-border comments have, and you are saying that normally people miss to write the comments, but we received around 3,000 comments on cross-border, and our volume of document is nearly twice the size of the recommendations. So it was a great response from the public, stakeholders telling wise things, how to move forward. So that phase is over. We are working on this. Our regulation is also ready. If and whenever government gives the green signal, it can be moved towards Parliament for necessary changes in the code. Then we have fresh start. Actually, thinking is basically from current dispensation, we know there is a capacity constraint in NCLT. So these thousands and thousands of cases which will come under individual insolvency shall not burden the NCLT as such. So thinking is, and recommendation is to deal it administratively in-house in IBBI itself through debt advisors in the field. So that is the thinking, and that is what is being deliberated upon. ILC and the government will take final call on this. On group insolvency, the interim report was given, but that committee is yet to submit its final report to government. So KP Krishnan report, committee's report, we are waiting. So is and when it is available, I think it will be posted for the comments for comments of the public before taking final view on this. So this is how we are on various issues. Thank you very much once again for giving me spare time. I think I have taken much than what it was warranted, but I thought these are the important issues.
No, Sudhakarji, thank you so much. Getting into the subject and diving deep into it, we can do it anytime. but actually understanding the contours of it becomes very important for all of us as professionals. So you gave us not only the contour of the subject that we have in hand, but respectfully also, on my request, you also gave us what's happening in IBBI and what is it that professionals and the corporate sector could look forward to. So you, this dealing it administratively was quite an exciting fact that we got to know. Though even I was listening about it for a pretty long time, that fresh start could happen that way. But I think that will be amazing for a country like us to have it this way. I think our country is really known for innovations. Our country believes in what the Honorable Supreme Court had mentioned, that if we don't innovate, we die before the God tells us to die. So I think we don't want to die before the Almighty calls us upstairs. So we are really innovating quite a lot. And today is anyway a historic day. Joe Bidenji is taking the mantle of a historic nation. And our country, India, has created history in Brisbane Test match, where in their own fortress they conquered and invaded the country, if I may say so, in GABA. So anyway, we have so many accolades up our sleeves, that this accolade of having pre-packaged in just about 4 years of bringing the insolvency law into our great nation, it will be one more feather in our country's cap that we are wearing. So thank you so much for bringing all that in the forefront, Sudhakarji. It was very, very precious. And if you are just not feeling well, you may please go off camera and take some rest also. I mean, we are completely okay with it. But we love to have the pleasure of your company as long as you can.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. We, Sudhakarji, don't miss listening to Rajneesh ji,
yeah,
because
yeah.
he is a, if I can use that word, he's a repertoire. You know, he's an institute in himself. He is an institution in making, if I can say, because as professionals we are always work in progress. So Rajneesh ji is one person who has always mentioned that, Mamta, मैं कितना भी कुछ कर लूं बट मैं सीख ही रहा हूं अभी तक. So Rajneesh ji is very close to so many, I mean, organizations, and he has taken a bright step towards creating the MSME Development Forum. I have been very fortunate in partnering in few of the events and programs, very meaningful ones that he did with the Ministry of MSME. So Rajneesh ji, may I request you to please let your thoughts be known to the public at large.
Dhanyavad, thank you. Am I
Yes, sir, you're audible, very much audible.
right? Thank you for inviting me to this August gathering. And on a very important subject today, you have selected for deliberating and spreading awareness, about this Insolvency Act. Uh, am I allowed to use little bit Hindi also?
सर राष्ट्रीय भाषा है, आप आराम से, अब मुझे ये पता नहीं कि राष्ट्रीय भाषा का कुछ चल रहा है, बट आप आराम से प्लीज बोलिए, प्लीज सर.
Because sometimes you are more comfortable in expressing yourself in your language which you speak. Because if you are in Bengal, you are more comfortable in Bengali, whether it's Marwadi. I have so many Marwadi friends. They're very fluent and very comfortable in speaking Bengali. So maybe in between, हमें ये इंसॉल्वेंसी का जो एक्ट है, या इसको दिवाला कहते थे कि दिवाला निकला, तो हम सुना करते थे कि कोई सेठ ने अपना दिवाला इसलिए निकाला कि उसकी बेटी की शादी हो जाए. कहते इन सेठ जी का 2 बार दिवाला निकला, इसका मतलब इनके पास बहुत पैसा है. तो इंसॉल्वेंसी वहां बचपन से सुनते सुनते वी हैव रीच्ड a situation where we found that even because we have a office in New York also, so we had been listening about this Insolvency Act, and fortunately, our Modi government is taking very drastic decisions which are pending for several years, and one by one they are taking stand and taking decisions. So finally, 3-4 years back, we have got this act implemented, which has so many. Although I was not very much conversant about this law, and I just felt that it's comfortable for the industry and businessman to file the insolvency and get out of it. with some certain things. But today, Mamta sent me some details, and I have gone through it in deeply, and I found how useful it is for corporates and for even for MSMEs. Because as I understand, more than 90% of the trade industry and entrepreneurs, they are MSMEs. And I was the national convener of BJP MSME, Micro and Small Industries Cell. In 2014, when Modi ji was going to Madison Square Garden, New York, so I fought in PMO that Adani, Ambani, they are all going. Where is MSME? So finally, I was successful in getting a berth, and I also joined Modi ji as a MSME representative there. And there, Modi, I had some time to talk to Mr. Modi. So Modi ji asked me, Mr. Goenka, better you do this service to MSME and create a non-political platform so that nobody should feel that it is uh, this political thing. So it maybe it goes a little bit to my credit that in the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've been able to bring MSME to the forefront. 3, 4 years back, one of my very close friends, Arun Jaitley ji, happening to be the finance minister, when I used to talk to him about MSME, he used to say, अरे गोयनका जी यार MSME से देश थोड़ा चलता है, ये तो कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर और तो मैंने कहा जी देश चाहे नहीं चलता पर आपकी सरकार इन्हीं के द्वारा आती है 90%. टुडे आई फील देयर आर 7 crore MSME registered, non-registered are separate. And mostly अगर 2 लोग लें तो लगभग 14 करोड़ लोग इससे डायरेक्टली इन्वॉल्व हैं और अगर 5-5 उनके फैमिली के उनके सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स ले लें तो ये संख्या 60 करोड़ से ऊपर जाती है. तो बहुत बड़ी ये पॉपुलेशन है इनकी और पिछले 60-70 साल में दे वर इग्नोर्ड. व्यापारियों से और ये अपने जितने भी स्मॉल स्केल मीडियम स्केल के लोग थे इनको चोर समझा जाता था, बेईमान हैं, चोर हैं. वेयर एज किताबों में लिखा है कि दे आर इकोनॉमी की रीढ़ की हड्डी हैं. Coming to the today's this thing, the central government had been very aggressively carrying out the deep economic reforms to make India a great place to do business. It established a modern insolvency regime in no time to rescue business in stress and thereby promoting competition and innovation.
আমি একটা মিটিং আছে পরে করছি.
Pardon?
No, thank you. Sorry.
All right. So consequently, India's rank moved up to 52 in the world ranking of ease of doing business. And government made a stress on improving conditions, ease of doing business in India. So many laws, I think, I used to say every day 1 or 2 laws had been removed, and more than 1,400 laws have been removed. So ease of doing business and Insolvency Act is also in that direction of making comfortable the industry and business people comfortable, and when they are in stress they have some outlet, the gateway to get out. And MSME primarily, government took so many initiatives to help MSMEs. They changed the definition and they brought up to 250 crores. They can be now MSMEs, and starting from 5 crores, they have done it 250 crores. In this pandemic, more than 3 lakh crores were initiated for improving the condition of MSMEs. And so many other benefits because you all are very intelligent, knowledgeable people. And I am just like a postman. My job is to understand things from you and passing on to the right quarters. मैं आप लोगों के लिए हमेशा मैं बोलता हूं मैं एक डाकिये की तरह हूं. आप लोग मेरे को बताएं कि क्योंकि मैं दिल्ली बैठा हूं तो मैं अपने एमएसएमईज के लिए, ट्रेड इंडस्ट्रीज के लिए, सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स के लिए क्या कर सकता हूं, so that government ko everything has to be, finally it has to go to the government. And with blessings of Modi ji, I am like a catalyst between MSMEs and the trade industry and the government. And I can always take your voice to the right quarters whenever required, So I will appreciate, you should be listening to the intelligent and knowledgeable people on this subject instead of listening my haywire speech. So I can only reaffirm that I am with you, and Mamta Binani, Pramod Goenka, and so many other people who had taken the initiative of creating MSME Development Forum in Calcutta and taking it further. We are there with you always, and please, you should use our platform, our connections in reaching out to the right quarters in the government. And it will be my pleasure, it will be our pleasure to be there. And I was recently invited to come to Calcutta, and I have already, Pramoji is already pushing me, maybe in coming 15-20 days, if things allow, I will certainly, I always love to come to Calcutta, because of Calcutta is the second Rajasthan for us, and so lovable people, so affectionate, so helpful. So I'll certainly make a program. Then I will, not in virtual way, then physical way. Mamta, I will like to meet all of them, have a cup of tea, and we can interact on different issues. Thank you once again for calling me. And I'm not able to put more light on the basic subject because I was listening myself. And I will interact with the intelligent, known people, knowledgeable people to pass it on to North India also. Thank you once again. So nice of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rajneesh ji. Let's not bother about whether you are able to listen to the other things or you have been able to hear to what we spoke. I'll give you a detailed representation and a paper which will help us to carry things forward.
Thank you. So nice of
Thank you,
you.
Rajneesh.
ममता, रजनीश जी को बोलो. ममता, रजनीश जी आपको कलकत्ता आना है जल्दी.
हाँ हाँ
बहुत
सर, we
दिनों
will
से
do that. We'll do
हाँ
that.
बिल्कुल जी, आपका निमंत्रण स्वीकार है.
बहुत दिनों
और
से नहीं आए.
ये कोविड में कोई बुलाता ही नहीं है. यू आर द फर्स्ट पर्सन टू इनवाइट मी. थैंक यू.
आप आइए प्लीज.
So nice.
So, Sudhakar ji, Rajneesh ji, please allow us to now move on to the presentation. And if your time permit, you may please remain with us, or else we'll also email the presentation to your good selves.
I have another webinar with
I can
the
understand.
American embassy.
Sure.
If I finish, I'll come back again.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, friends, we have from IWIRC, Madam Manisha Dheer, who is the chair for the India Network. Manisha ma'am, if you would like to say something now or maybe towards the end as you choose to do that. We must say that we had about 300 participants joining this webinar, and we would like to make it, of course, more meaningful. And I have prepared a presentation, so please allow me to share it so that we can actually, I hope you're able to see this. Jivan sir, can you please put a thumbs up if you're able to see the presentation? You're able to? Okay. Thank you, Sudhakar ji. Thanks a ton. What is this pre-packaged insolvency resolution process? Now, it's about 5 o'clock. We aim to finish at 5:40 or maybe 5:30. This pre-packaged insolvency resolution process is sometimes people are mistakenly also saying as pre-arranged or insolvency resolution process. Please always remember that there is a difference between pre-packaged and pre-arranged. Now, these two words, as pre-packaged or pre-arranged, what exactly it means? It means that before we enter the CIRP arena, which is the formal arena, we do a lot of work at the back of it, or before we enter it, let's do all the work, and then we get into the formal process, more so towards an engagement with the COC formally, and also getting a formal blessing of the honorable NCLT in the form of an approval from the adjudicating authority, so that when that formal approval is in our bag, there is no one to question the veracity of the resolution plan. So, therefore, this pre-packaged insolvency resolution process was conceived with the basic objective that CIRP for for all kind of CIRPs, be it for a small company or be it for a large company, is very time taking, and whenever there is a passage of time, it becomes an expensive process, and also it's laced with lot of litigation. So therefore, probably the committee thought it fit that now that we are into maturity, because we are already 4 years down the line, we have been able to understand what CIRP is all about, and lot of the issues which were preliminary issues and big issues have now been settled by virtue of judicial pronouncements, and therefore it felt that this is an opportune time that pre-packaged insolvency should come into the fray. I think COVID or pre-COVID, this was being talked of for a pretty long time. Probably COVID actually just fastened it. It fastened the process. So what therefore is pre-packaged? So it said that pre-packaged process should not take 180 days, leave alone 270 days. It said that it should actually we should endeavor, not only endeavor, the law that may come up will say that it has to get over in 90 days, and then it also fixes a timeline for the honorable adjudicating authority that within a period of 30 days after the plan has been submitted to them for its approval, within a period of 30 days, the plan should be, of course, if it finds favor with the adjudicating authority, the plan should be approved. Now, all that hullabaloo about commercial wisdom is all settled, that the commercial wisdom of the COC is definitely not something which the Honorable NCLT will try to get into. So, therefore, what remains to be probably seen by the Honorable NCLTs is, of course, which is a very vital part of the entire process, is of course the process itself. So, in pre-packaged insolvency process, if I can quickly tell you in short, and then I'll get into the presentation, it says that the company that will be, which means a debtor in possession, will first it is the first one to get signals that it's not able to actually take care of its debt. So this subcommittee actually dealt with three kinds of debts. One, it said that can it just take itself into insolvency resolution process when it feels that it's going to enter a space where it will not be able to actually meet its debt, that is pre default stress. Okay, then it went on to say that that will be very difficult to monitor, it will be very difficult to even understand because it's very subjective. So this law has to be objectively set, and to set it objectively, it said that let, for the time being at least to start with, let it be for a debt which is in default, and the size to start with would be, and you may fasten your belts to know this, would be rupees 1 lakh to rupees 1 crore. So, yes, my friends, you heard it right that today the CIRP is for 1 crore plus, we know that. But this pre-packaged insolvency resolution process will be available for debt which is in default in the region of rupees 1 lakh to rupees 1 crore. And now what you hear would be more valuable probably, and that is it will also be available to address the COVID related defaults. If you recollect and if you have heard Shukla sir, he was mentioning that lot of it is under the carpet because lot of this, the figures that he gave is 70% plus people have the corporate, small or big, have taken the advantage of moratorium. Now imagine when this moratorium is no more in place, when you are out of that, ventilator that you are put into, I don't know how many of us will be able to survive. So in that particular time, probably the subcommittee felt that it would be very, very precious to extend this particular resolution process to even COVID related defaults. Okay, so this pre-packaged insolvency resolution process, when the committee was actually pondering over it, it also discussed two more stratas of default. It said that let us start with 1 lakh to 1 crore and COVID related defaults. And later on, when we become a little mature or more mature, we can also extend it to default size of 1 rupee to 1 lakh. Okay, and in the third phase we also may extend to pre-default stress. So we may see this pre-packaged insolvency resolution process also getting unfolded itself in stages. So if I may say that there's these gallows and hallows which will always keep haunting us, that okay, now something is going to come by, now something is going to come by. But I think as professionals we are very excited because this only keeps us on our toes, and this is anyways for the betterment of the economy and the society at large. So with this, let me take you through the presentation. Just 1 minute, I have not been able to, yeah. So this is the background. I'm not taking you again to the background. Need of pre-pack, I have actually told you. So this pre-pack is, as I was mentioning, that it's a fast track process. So if it is a fast track process, and how is it a fast track process? Because it says a lot of the work done should be outside the formal process. So कहते हैं that when you see the iceberg, the more the iceberg that you see on top, if you see it up to this length, that much length is also below the iceberg. So it says that when you enter the pre-pack space, lot of the work, in fact more of that work that you need to do for pre-pack, which we do in CIRP today while we are in the formal process, you have to do it behind the scene, okay, behind the curtain. But when I use behind the scene and behind the curtain, I must tell you that this is not in the negative connotation, okay, it is absolutely in the positive connotation. Because even when you do that, there is this IRP or the IRP, whatever nomenclature that you may say, who is already appointed by the corporate debtor to actually oversee the process. Okay, so therefore there is a third eye or a second eye in the form of a professional like you and me who will actually see or monitor the process, right? So therefore a lot of that work has to be done before we enter the pre-pack. So let me tell you quickly exactly what I'm trying to tell you. So before we enter the pre-pack formal process, what is it that the corporate sector has to do? So let me call it a corporate debtor here. A corporate debtor, for example, gets into a default of, just for an example's sake, 95 lakhs. Okay, and that is a default. It was a debt. He has defaulted in that debt. Now that corporate debtor decides, because he falls under that scheme of things, decides that the corporate debtor decides. Okay, please hear me right. The corporate debtor decides that I need to invoke the pre-pack provision. So what it does, it firstly has to understand that whether it wants to get into pre-pack or not. Once it decides that it has to get into pre-pack, one fine morning it just cannot put him itself into pre-pack. The first thing that probably has to do is call a board meeting, and then via a board meeting it has to call us a general body meeting. In the general body meeting, it has to take an approval of the shareholders by simple majority. Okay, as we know in CIRP it is a special resolution, but in pre-pack the government is asking that you have to take an ordinary resolution from the shareholders of the company, that it has to go into pre-pack, and of course it has to be accompanied by explanatory statement where it will lay down the facts, the figures, and the objective behind going for a pre-pack. It is not only up to here, it also says that before entering into a pre-pack, hey Mr. Corporate Debtor, you must talk to your financial creditors. Now, when we talk to financial creditors, of course, the understanding would be that it has to touch base with the non-related financial creditors. And if a company does not have financial creditors, as we have it for CIRP, it has to touch base with the operational creditors. Now, when they talk to the financial creditors, it has to tell them that, look, we are trying to enter into this pre-pack space where we want to actually resize or rehabilitate ourselves by resizing the debt, right? So it takes into confidence the financial creditors. And when it takes into confidence, the financial creditors may also, there are two ways it does. it may informally say that, hey, we are okay with it, right? So when we say informally, even then it is expected that the financial creditors amongst themselves, not a COC, because it is still not into a formal process. So when it is outside the formal process, I cannot give it the nomenclature of COC. So the financial creditors in itself, they form a group in whatever name that you call it, and they pass a resolution by a simple majority that, okay, we are okay with this pre-pack, right? So they may actually vote. If they vote, it is called a pre-arranged pre-pack. And if they don't formally vote before they enter pre-pack, it is a pre-pack which is pre-packaged. It is not pre-arranged. Then I hope I'm able to make that distinction. Okay, so that is also by way of 51% understanding. After this, the IRP or the RP, it is IRP in that space, it is known as IRP. That IRP is also selected and is appointed by the corporate debtor, because that individual who's a third or a second eye is actually going to oversee the whole process. Why an overseeing body is required in the form of an IRP is because IRP would be a person who is a person with no prejudice, right? Which will have no baggages of the past and will actually be able to monitor the process. Now, what do you mean by here monitoring the process? It's very enlightening to know that even in pre-packaged, there is this transaction audit that has to be carried. There are the valuers that has to be appointed. And of course, if it is a debtor in possession, which it is, then it is also important that somebody else is also there to see whether the debtor in possession is not doing anything which is going to be detrimental to the larger interests of its stakeholders. So probably the IRP would be the one who is actually going to monitor it. Now, with all of this, it now will actually file an application and get into pre-pack. When it gets into pre-pack, we have seen that a lot of time is also invested in invitation of claim, in actually having the IM done, etc. So in pre-pack, the law is probably going to unfold in the sense that it may say that public announcement is not required in the newspapers. There would be, because cost is also a constraint. So it may say that IBBI may put up a website, or with the help of IUs, okay, this public announcement will be made. It will not probably be required to be put up in the newspapers. And the corporate debtor will have to be under a mandatory responsibility to actually let the RP know that who are the persons who are having claims in the company. Of course, the financial statements will come handy, but a lot of onus has been placed on the CD, because CD is the one who's trying to actually get into this pre-pack and trying to rehabilitate itself. So a lot of this responsibility will be on the CD to actually give the RP the right claim sheet. Okay, and the law may also go on to say that if the CD is doing any mischief with providing information, be it incorrect or be it incomplete information or inaccurate data, then criminal liability will also may also get straddled on the CD and the directors. And there's also a perception where I understand that it may say that a lot of these liabilities will still lie on the directors in its individual capacity. So they have to be very much on their toes to give the right information to the RP. And even for an IM, which we understand that IM preparation in itself is a daunting task, and it takes so much of time, so much of effort. So there also it goes on to say that in pre-pack, the corporate debtor, by through its directors, chairman, or whatever, they have to actually prepare a IM and give it to the RP, so that RP can do a proper marketing. So I'll let you know what I'm trying to tell you about marketing. But IM would also be the quite a responsibility of the promoters or of the directors who's trying to rehabilitate itself under their signatures. So it will not be a document which will be with no authenticity. They have to actually make an authenticity saying that all the contents given herein are complete, accurate, and etc., etc. So all the onus will be on them. So that is the story about IM. It also then this I am telling you everything from the concept paper. I am not privy to any other document, so don't worry, all of it is there in that document, 77-page document that the MCA on esteemed MCA has floated. And this document which I have prepared in form of PPT, I'll also circulate this, so you may not need to write anything, just try to understand the concept. So then there was a view emerged that what will happen to the valuation, because valuation itself is again quite time taking and is expensive. But the ILC, that is the Insolvency Law Committee, through its subcommittee, mentioned no, it will be very important to have valuation done, and two valuers have to be appointed by the RP so that a valuation can be done objectively, because that may become a barometer later on. So the valuation provisions may remain as we understand today. And as I was mentioning, that transaction audit, I'm not going to call it as a forensic audit, transaction audit will also be remaining there. So why? Probably if you read the committee report, it says that a lot of discipline has come in because of this transaction audit. And it also went on to put some figures and numbers that in a lot of the CIRP cases, transaction audit have been able to plow back or claw back a lot of money into the corporate debtors' coffers. And therefore, it feels that taking away this sheen and taking away this fear factor from the corporate debtors' psychology will not be proper. So, therefore, transaction audit will remain, and RP will have to get this transaction audit done. So it's quite a, if you juxtapose these two together, that once we are saying that debtor will be in possession, debtor will be the one who will be carrying on the day-to-day business affairs of the company, and RP or IRP at that point in time will have a position of an over a kind of a hovering around and doing an overseeing. And there we are also saying that this person will be subjected, person means the corporate debtor, will be subjected to transaction audit. So if we juxtapose this together, you will probably feel how will it go? How will it go hand in hand? But I'm sure we are now matured enough to understand as to how we'll have to take these things forward. So these were the few things that I wanted to tell you in the beginning. And I also wanted to say that and please hear me right. This is something which I'm probably saying with a lot of responsibility. And Mr. Shukla may correct me if I'm going wrong. That 29A in its entirety is applicable to prepack. Section 29A in its entirety is applicable to prepack. And if you see the concept note, it actually has had a serial discussions that should 29A be removed, should 29A be kept, and if it is being kept, should it be kept in its entirety? And a lot of these discussions has taken place. And I what I understood by reading the discussion paper is that there was a vote where it said, because there was divided votes, and then by majority it was said that no, 29A should be there in its entirety, because 29A has brought lot of confidence into the system, lot of discipline into the system. So we do not want to disturb it. Shukla sir, please modify me if I'm
Yeah.
going incorrect.
No, you're right. Actually, the concern was that 29A has come to a long way in deterring the ineligible promoters to get the company back. So
Yes.
it was thought that finally that this should be. And again, when we said it has to be as per the basic features of the code, this was also deliberated. That 29A is definitely a basic feature that ineligible candidates should not take away the assets.
Thank you, sir. So, taking it forward, so as I was mentioning, so this corporate debtor, he gets into a default of 90 lakhs in this example that we were talking of. So he decides to go for a pre-pack. Why he decides to go for a pre-pack? Because he feels that I can rehabilitate myself. My cash flows is only going to support maybe 60 lakhs, and I want to be in the mainstream. I don't want to just vanish away with liquidation. So therefore, he understands pre-pack, and therefore he pinpoints on an IRP, and he decides to invite the IRP. Then he also gets into that resolution of its members. He connects with the FCs. In the FC's meeting, he also bounces off the name of IRP that he has appointed in. Because if you read the note, it also says that in this process, we would not like to change the IRP because it creates disruptions. And since it's a fast track process in the sense that it's 90 days process, so a lot of time then goes away when that engine, the IRP or the RP changes. So therefore, it's quite averse to that change of the professional. So therefore, what I understand is this corporate debtor bounces off the name of the IRP with the FCs, and that's how the process starts. IM is prepared when the RP, when it actually gets formally triggered. But before getting formally triggered, I think, this claim collation, list of creditors, IM, all work starts at the background level, because it has to. Because if you see the timeline, within 7 days, the list of creditors has to be formulated, the COC has to be made, the IM has to be circulated in 10 days. So all these timelines are, are very, they're quite stringent. So we need to be very sure that all of this, it is done before we enter the formal process. Now, say for example, now we enter the formal process. When we enter the formal process, as I mentioned, the LOC, the list of creditors, the IM, transaction audit work starts. Here, the valuation starts. And then what we have also seen in foreign jurisdictions, that as soon as we enter the as soon as we enter the pre-pack formal process, we have also seen corporate debtor giving its resolution plan in 48 hours, or maybe in 5 6 days. It doesn't even wait for formalization of the COC, etc. But I don't know how our regulations will unfold. But try to understand the concept that it can be so fast that the corporate debtor can, because it has got that time below the iceberg. So it has already worked on it, that what kind of a plan it will like to bring forth, etc., etc. So as soon as it enters the formal process, the corporate debtor, through its promoters, directors, whatever, can actually bring a formal resolution plan. Of course, 29A has to be in sight, has to be totally in the vision, and it can bring the resolution plan in the forefront. Now, if you recollect what Mr. Behram Vakil was mentioning, and Mr. Sudhakar Shukla also, it spoke about the Swiss challenge. Now, what it was trying to speak was that Swiss challenge, we all understand very well, that, मेरी शर्ट आपके शर्ट से सफेद क्यों, और मेरी शर्ट आपके शर्ट से सफेद है ज्यादा. So it's like, you have to match somebody else's coat, and you have to match it in a better way. So in this pre-pack, it may go on to say that if the corporate debtor, and please hear me, if the corporate debtor is giving a resolution plan which is not impairing the operational creditors even a bit, I repeat, if the corporate debtor, through whatever, is giving a resolution plan which is not impairing the interests of the operational creditors even a bit, then the law may unfold to say that Swiss challenge will not be applicable to that promoter who's giving a plan. Okay. Should I repeat? I hope I've done it twice, and I'll repeat this whole thing once again, but just hear me correctly. And it says that if there is an impairment to the interests of the operational creditors, then the committee of creditors, which is of course constituted of financial creditors, may get into a Swiss challenge mode. Okay. And it also goes on to say that that if you recollect section 30 subsection 2, where it says that the operational creditors should not be getting less than the liquidation value, etc., etc., that section will also be have to kept in sight. So therefore, the Swiss challenge also may come with ifs and bits. Okay. And interestingly, it says that Swiss challenge cannot go on forever. So, in CIRP, we may see that it may go on for days together. But here, I think the law will unfold to say that within the next 48 to 24 hours, the Swiss challenge has to be done and shut. So therefore, if somebody is doing a Swiss challenge, you've got to quickly make your bid, if I may use that word bid, to close it at a certain point. And I think the law may also tell you that beyond a certain percentile only, Swiss challenge may come in. So, for example, if somebody is just trying to say that, okay, I'll give you 5% more than what this guy is given, probably Swiss challenge, the law may say that, that leeway of percentage may also be getting prescribed in the regulation. So we'll have to see these small nitty-gritties in the regulation. But as a concept, please try to understand that promoters may not just have a walkthrough. Okay? They may have to actually encounter a better bid. And it also, when I read the concept paper, one more thing I understood, that if the promoter says that, no, I don't think I'll be able to give a plan, then do you think the pre-pack will come to a stall? No, it will not. The committee of creditors, that is the financial creditors who are constituting the committee of creditors, may also talk to an outsider who could be an investor, who could be a person who is wanting to run that industry, So in whatever format it could be, that they could speak to someone, and even without entering into a formal process, even they could be doing their homework as the corporate debtor would be doing before entering into the formal space. So even the COC in its they have all, because anyways it's that was a time when it is informal, they could also start talking to their own set of people whom they probably know could be interested, to even tell them that you may also like to put in a plan. So therefore, there would be this competing bids, because if you read the objective of the code is definitely maximization of value. So when I read this concept note, it went on to say that the objectives of the code are sacrosanct. So there's nothing that will be done which will be beyond or below the objective of the code. So therefore, maximization of value, as I was mentioning, as the objective of the code has also been taken care of in this particular pre-pack. So so what happens? As I was mentioning, so this CD, 90 lakhs default, he goes, then he puts, say for example, in this case, the CD itself puts in a plan. Fine. The plan will then go to the COC. Of course, it will be kind of debated over it. Of course, it just cannot just go in. That need not be said. We are mature enough to understand that it will be debated on, and then it will be going for a formal voting process. In this voting process, it will be very interesting to tell you that 66% of the COC, if it approves, then the plan goes through. Now, this 66%, I think I'm correct. And in front of Shuklaji, I cannot even muster the talent to say something which I'm not too sure. But 66% of present and voting. So that's a very interesting concept that I could understand when I read the paper. So 66%, and if you're hearing me quite right, it is 66% of the COC, which is present and voting. Okay, so present and voting concept has really come in, and we have seen an NCLAT judgment also, but we are not using that in CIRP because we are not using it. Okay, we are talking about pre-pack, where in the concept note it says that the COC with 66% present and voting, if it approves the resolution plan, then that resolution plan gets through, and it then goes on to the table of the Honorable Adjudicating Authority for its approval. Now, say for example, this approval process is fine. It gets approved by the Adjudicating Authority also, and the case is resolved. Now, what happens if, and this is very interesting, and you may like to understand this a little better, what happens if the resolution plan doesn't get through? So, which means the pre-pack falls through and the pre-pack goes towards closure. I'm again saying this. What happens if the resolution plan does not muster the 66% present and voting threshold? What happens? It does not go into liquidation as we see in CIRP. In CIRP, what happens? Section 33 triggers and we get into liquidation, right? Here in this case, it does not get into automatic liquidation. I please request you to remember this. And that's quite an interesting fact, and this is what pre-pack is all about, that it will not enter into the liquidation hospital. It will actually say that this pre-pack comes to a closure. Okay, pre-pack comes to a closure. Now then what about liquidation? So the pre-pack says that if the COC feels, even at the beginning of the process, feels that no, this is an apt case of liquidation, and liquidation is only going to bring respite to this corporate debtor, or liquidation is the only way of rehabilitating this corporate debtor, then it says that 75% of the COC has to vote in favor of liquidation. Now, this 75% is not present and voting. This 75% is of percentage is of the voting, of the total voting space, right? Of the total voting percentage, as we do in CIRP. I hope you'll be able to recollect what I said. 66% is of present and voting. And of course, liquidation is something which the government is saying that requires mustering of higher percentile of vote. So it goes on to say 75% of the total voting percentage. Okay. So even in the beginning, if they decide that this case needs to go for liquidation, it can do by 75%, or else later, of course, it is open. But pre-pack If a resolution plan is not coming through, it does not go for automatic liquidation. It just goes for a closure. Now, two, three more things. One, CIRP and CIR pre-pack cannot go on together. It cannot just go on together. If CIRP is going through, then pre-pack cannot be triggered. If pre-pack is going through, CIRP cannot get triggered. Number one. Number two, it says that if pre-pack, for example, just closes, then can we not trigger CIRP? We means, of course, the aggrieved parties or even Section 10 application. The answer to this is yes. If pre-pack falls through and does not achieve its target of resolution, of course, anyone who's aggrieved can take the company through the CIRP mode. Of course, the CIRP threshold will have to be kept in mind, which is 1 crore plus. So therefore, that's something which you have to keep in mind, right? And a third important thing would be that in CIRP, we are aware that 1 year time lag is there. So once CIRP, and if that corporate debtor again has to be taken into CIRP, the cooling period would be of 1 year, 12 months. But in pre-pack, I think the concept paper is talking about a cooling period of 3 years. So these are few of the vital things that I wanted to say. Pre-pack is a wonderful combination of the formal and the informal process. And the best part about pre-pack would be probably its timelines. And it also very beautifully recognizes, this concept paper beautifully recognizes that more we are into CIRP, the destruction of value is much more. So it says that let the stigma of the CIRP not be with the corporate debtor for long. So it will be very wise and prudent that this CIRP, the moment we enter into this tunnel, if please allow me to use this word, because I've seen how the series reel under pressure when it is in CIRP because of the stigma attached to it. And this pre-pack says that guys, we understand this problem, so therefore we want we quickly do it, informally do it, come into the formal process, and don't take even 90 days. You could actually finish the process even in 10 days. There's no requirement of even 90 days. So I think this societal angle has also been beautifully captured in the concept note. So let me then quickly take you through the presentation, and it's not a very long presentation. Even the pre-pack, if you read, it looks like a 77-pager document, and that is, probably when we get deterred, oh, it's a long document. But if you see, half of it is quite dedicated as a prelude. Why the concept of pre-pack is required in our country? Why are we matured enough to have it now? And what are the lessons that we have learned from the other jurisdictions who has already pitched in pre-pack, and how this pre-pack is still not there in many jurisdictions, but is being followed, even not being dovetailed from the law books, even if it is not, coming from a statute, even otherwise, pre-pack is doing pretty well in certain jurisdictions. So it also goes on to say that sometimes we also know that our society is not only standing on the legs of laws, it is also standing on the legs of practice, right? So a lot of jurisdictions is still practicing pre-pack, even otherwise not being there in the law books. So all that has been, is being very vividly captured in as a prelude in that concept note. So if you are not having the time to really go through the prelude, you can actually get into the song directly and start singing, because we actually need your comments and observations to be given to respected IBBI and NCA, and you have to do it by 22nd only, and there's a link given. You have to do by way of link only. Please don't send emails, it will not be seen. So sorry Shuklaji, I just took the liberty to say that because it was important for us to know. So I have kind of this presentation is trying to tell you what is happening in other jurisdictions, and we'll actually share this with all of you. And then few of the advantages I have already mentioned to you. Speed is one of the very important advantage. The cost, the flexibility, something which is informal is always more flexible. Speed and reduction of formal process, and then a quick resolution. Job preservation, of course, this is the most important criteria that we need to take care. Lighter on courts, and group resolution. So there are some concerns. Let me just take you through these two slides. One is pre-pack lacks transparency. Marketing of pre-pack is insufficient, and valuation methodology. So valuation methodology is quite captured because RP would be required to do valuation. Marketing, as I told you, Swiss challenge, etc. IM will be floated, and transparency, no question of transparency because we are now looking at a formal process also. So sham to simply ditch debt, not really anymore because we are also having a formal process. And there are many key features of pre-pack. The best is that insolvency practitioner will also be overseeing it, so that's very interesting. It's an optimal semi-formal option. So like a Friday dressing, you wear formal and you also combine it with an informal, and that gives you a lot of peace also at times, that you're not always tied and suited and booted. So this option will also give you that kind of stress-free environment. A moratorium provision will be there. Let me tell you, moratorium is very interestingly laid down in pre-pack. It says that usual moratorium will not be there. What is usual moratorium? Usual moratorium is that you shut yourself, you insulate yourself from everything. But here it says that in pre-pack, since corporate debtor will be in possession, it says that moratorium will not be available for essential services, essential goods and services. So for others, moratorium will be available. So that's quite a intrigued proposition. But I really loved it when I read it, that so much of thought has gone into it. I've told you everything of what is coming into the slides, so don't you worry that we've left something. Resolution professional, as I was mentioning, committee of creditors. So after the LOC, that is list of creditors, is ready, the committee of creditors will be formulated, not before that. Informally you can do whatever, but no, don't name it committee of creditors, because then it will be like a lot of confusion. So a lot of discussions went on to the subject of valuation, that why do you let us just take the valuation from the corporate debtor, because they know the valuation, right? But because of transparency, because of lending a lot of credibility to the process, it was very much important to have the transaction audit retained, to have the valuation sections retained. So that was, I felt it was very good. Avoidance transactions retained. And for this could be important, the insolvency resolution process cost. So it said that the other running expenses will not be forming a part of the CIP cost. It would be the fees of the RP, the interim funding, and other process related costs which will be approved by COC, that will be only forming a part of the CIP. Because it is a debtor in possession, the corporate debtor is allowed to be run without any hindrance, without any issues. Therefore, the running cost will not be bagged under, or will not be tagged as a CIP cost. So moratorium, as I told you, resolution plan, and other aspects, as I mentioned, closure of process. And for the prevention of abuse, I mentioned that we'll have this transaction audit, we'll have a Swiss challenge, we'll have a valuation done. And it then also goes to tell us that Honorable NCLT's role and infrastructure is very, very important. Sudhakarji also touched upon it when it said that we are very much aware and very much cognizant of the fact that how this infrastructure is overburdened. And therefore, in Fresh Start, he mentioned about dealing it administratively. So NCLT's role has also been quite covered in the concept note, and said that we need to really pep up this infrastructure, and that is where we are. Let us all come together and strengthen the hands of not only the judiciary by being a responsible officer of the court, but also let's first strengthen the hands of the legislature by giving our comments well in time as to what we understand and what we look at it from our prism. A lot of times, the legislation has its own, if I may say, limitations, but we, as people who are soldiers of the country, as insolvency professionals are always known as soldiers. I also take the words of Dr. Sahu that we are frontline workers. We are there in a very serious business of bringing the corporate sector, the LLP or whatever, in the forefront, back with life. So we are also endowed with a lot of responsibilities. Let us take these responsibilities very seriously and also give our comments and observations on time. So thank you very much to all of you for being with us.
Mamta,
I don't know whether, yes, sorry, I'm not.
can I take one moment? I've specially come back
Sir, so honored that you're back. Please, please.
Right. MSME Forum wants to present this memento to you on a virtual way.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
This is for you,
Oh,
Mr.
thanks.
Banerjee, for organizing such a grand event
My
and
God.
very useful.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajnishi. It comes such as a pleasant surprise to all of us.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajnishi.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the honor.
Right.
So, Sudhakarji, may I come back to you if you would say something about the contours that I've just tried to outline, and if you feel something that should have been said more, I please hold over the baton to you.
No, thank you very much. It was a very comprehensive and good presentation. It captures the spirit of the concept paper which has been floated. But since you have allowed me to come back, I want to add a few things actually. One thing is basically on Swiss challenge you said, and Swiss challenge, many questions are there on that. So Swiss challenge is market value maximization is very much embedded in the concept, but it is more of a concept which is disciplining the CD. So the focus is that CD should not go haywire. He should give the credible plan to approve. Otherwise, this dagger of Swiss challenge is hanging. So it is more to discipline the CD. And if in Swiss challenge he loses out, again he has the opportunity, if he quotes 10% more than the Swiss challenger, he can still retain the CD. But this is again, if you are giving your plan credible and workable at the first go, perhaps the Swiss challenger may not come at all, because that is one way of disciplining. So I thought that part was a bit missing there. And when we drafted this report, actually, Bairam Sahib and Sahu as chairman, actually this was a time of peak of COVID, actually. So what default we are talking actually 1 lakh to 1 crore is the earlier limit of 1 lakh which was available under IBC, and the 1 crore which was revised due to COVID times. So now COVID times and COVID relief package is coming to an end actually in March, most probably, because it was initially up to 1 year, it was extended, and 3 months, 6 months it was rolled out. So now with actually COVID behind us, we are also feeling a bit shy to call it a COVID response. Basically, then it becomes a credible response of the market, and without COVID also, it has a lot of justification to run through the process of pre-pack before the normal CRP or like. So these money limits thresholds which we are talking, and very much recommended by the committee, in the change circumstances, may government take a relook, I think so, because if COVID times are over and this is a important instrument, then designing aspect should not concentrate on the COVID. So this is just a note of cautious. It may happen, it may not happen, but this is how we perceive. And the third, many questions are coming on avoidance transaction, what is being done, and there is again a deliberation, the split vote, because we were thinking all the time that time is too short to go for the avoidance transaction in full. So maybe only fraudulent transactions should be under the consideration. Committee's wisdom has been to keep the avoidance transaction in full. And reasons are also very obvious, because it is being litigated right now in various forums. whether avoidance transaction can continue after the this any resolution plan has been approved and CD has been closed. So this litigation also may take it otherwise, that you are in one case you have allowed already that only fraudulent will come in, so it will lose value there. So our report which recommends that avoidance transaction as a whole full set would be applicable. So these three things I wanted to add. Over to you, Binani.
Thank you, Sudhakarji. So, Sudhakarji, are we saying that this threshold of 1 lakh to 1 crore may change when the final?
No, may change means I'm saying it's a again a market voice. I'm telling you, it is not. It's a report has been submitted, and this committees like after the stakeholders consultation, ILC would take final call on what should do. But lot many people and market stakeholders are saying that it should not be seen as a COVID-related intervention. It should be overarching and should be part of the code anyway.
Yeah, understandable. And a lot of questions are coming in the chat box. They are asking that when a debtor is in possession, how will it be possible to really get through transaction audit? Because so.
No, actually, debtor in possession, we have made it very clear. It's a severe criminal liabilities if any information has been hidden. So those deterrent are inbuilt in the. If you read the paper, it has a cover section. There are penal provisions if you are hiding information at any point of time. It is unearthed that you have not given the claims properly or balance sheet properly, or something is hiding there. So we have kept the onus on the promoter himself that he would be criminally liable, and directors would be criminally liable if wrong information is furnished. So that is deterrent. Otherwise, in 90 days, how you will do? So this is.
You are taking the thread from Shuklaji to my esteemed participants. I also wish to say that only the serious and non-willful kind of people will actually come for pre-pack, because then they will be knowing that, look, we cannot play fool with the system. So only genuine people will actually be then excited about this pre-pack, rather than all those people will automatically get shunned off. So I think a very big purpose has been served with this draft paper. It really shows us the path ahead. And I personally am quite vouching for what has been written about transaction audit, about valuation, and about all these things. Shuklaji, we are really excited. I hope that we get this in the budget.
Yeah, because we are also, because this is next generation reform which was due, and it is coming along with other due, which I already told. There are 2-3 things which have not been implemented so far, or implementation strategy was not known. So cross border is one, where implementation strategy was not known. It was one-to-one MOU, but now we are talking about unilateral code to be signed and get access to all the jurisdiction. So we are also excited if those recommendations go through. So surely we hope that these all will be coming soon.
Thank you, sir. Madam Munmun, there are about quite a number of question and answers. Questions. I request you to please save them. If you have that capability to do it in the system, I'm not sure. Please
Okay, we'll do that.
From the chamber, I'll try and reply to them, all of them.
Okay.
So my precious
right.
participants, we'll get back to you on all your questions to the best of our ability. Thank you very much. It's now Thanksgiving time. We're almost 2 hours into the session. And for the benefit of my precious panelists, I must say that we still have about 200 people attending the program. And in the beginning, we had 300. So numbers are not important. Why I say this is because it just shows that how people have been eagerly waiting to understand from the horse's mouth. Sudhakarji's presence today is from the regulator's side, and it's very, very important to understand first-hand information. And I think it's only because of him and Mr. Behram Vakil, and of course from the MSME Development Forum, Mr. Rajneesh Goenka, that we could see such a fantastic participation. Now I must request Mr. Gupta, you want to say something?
No, I just want to say that
Yes.
your presentation has been so wonderful, and it is so detailed that
Thank,
I was watching the presentation point to point and minute to minute. Such a good presentation you have made in such a short time. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
thank you, Guptaji. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you, sir. So, Jiban sir, who is the co-chair and a very erudite person, as I was mentioning in the beginning, that he is a consultant to Shyam Steel. Jiban sir, may I request you to please propose a formal vote of thanks?
Yes, thank you, madam. After a very engaging and insightful discussion on proposed prepackaged insolvency resolution process under IBC, covering a very wide range of issues on this most relevant subject in the contemporary business scenario, I take this opportunity to wholeheartedly thank our guest, Sri Baharam N. Vakil, founder partner AZB and partners, and Sri Sudhakar Shukla, full-time member IDBI, for gracing this webinar despite their very busy schedule. We also convey our sincere thanks to Sri Rajneesh Goenka, Chairman MSME Development Forum, for his special address in this webinar. I also specially thank Srimati Mamta Binani, our chairperson for Council of Legal Affairs, for taking the trouble of organizing this wonderful webinar and giving a brilliant presentation. Our special thanks are also due to the President NCDA Kolkata Bar for his kind and gracious participation in this webinar. We are indeed very fortunate today that the eminent speakers have traversed various contours of corporate insolvency resolution process, which has emerged as a redressal mechanism for creditors as per the provisions of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, which is in the process of reformation as of now. It also remains a fact that owing to the improvement in insolvency proceedings in a time-bound manner, as according to CIRP, the ease of doing business and willingness of creditors to lend has improved significantly, thus positively affecting credit flow in Indian reality. We are confident that this mechanism will substantially contribute to the improvement of business atmosphere and help build new India in the days to come through accelerated economic growth. I put on record my deep sense of appreciation for the keen interest evinced by the participants through their impressive participation in today's webinar. I sincerely thank all of them. I also take this privilege to thank all the representatives of the press and electronic media for their kind presence and extending us their unstinted support. We are confident to have it in the days ahead also. With these few words, I express my heartfelt thanks to the members of our chamber, friends, business associates, and also the officials of the NCC for their gracious presence in this webinar. I now propose a hearty vote of thanks for Sri Baharin and Vakil and Sri Sudhakar Shukla and all other distinguished guests, and request you all to carry this with acclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jiban sir, you're done?
Thank you.
Thank you. So we extend our thanks to all the supporting organizations too. Sudhakar sir, please keep your blessings on all the insolvency professionals. We are sometimes embroiled into unnecessary things, but if I may just use this word, but we assure you that we stand rock solid with whatever initiatives the IBBI and the country is bringing forth for the betterment of the economy. Thank you so much for your kind presence.
Thank you, Mamta.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You may kindly log off. Thank you.
Thank you.
After my guests have logged off, we will do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Guptaji, thank you for your presence.
Thank you. Thank you.
In spite of all odds, you just make it a point.
No. It was my pleasure. My pleasure learning so much from your presentation.
Extended